How do you know when a story is over? If something can go on for infinity and be continuous, how do you discretize it and find its first unit that's observable? You know when something ends when you realize things never end. That's consent. That's a boundary you have to put as consciousness to stabilize in reality. Boundaries, stabilization, consent. These are all three important properties, three of many, of consciousness. In a similar way, when you want to stabilize so often, we often wonder what is that unifying principle that can help create this physical material reality. Boundaries, consent, and most importantly, stabilization. How does stabilization take place? Through persistence. When consciousness persists in one way of being and consents to maybe another aspect of consciousness multiple times, it materializes, and that material comes with laws. The same way in a romantic relationship, when you set a boundary, or there's things that you consent to with your partner, that establishes the physics of your relationship. Well, we have a physics of our relationship with God. It's the literal subject of physics itself. This is how physics is formed. Physics exists because consciousness has consented and created boundaries and stabilized multiple times so that consciousness can then precipitate into material form. That's how stability occurs. Stability can't happen without laws. And laws can't exist without there being consent between parties. To some degree, the dimension we're in, the reality we're in, everything has been consented to and pretty well planned. By the time something happens in the physical realm, there's been hundreds of thousands, I can't even imagine, infinite layers of consent God has provided for something to emerge. So when people think that there is an issue with combining consciousness as the substratum of our universe with the laws of physics, they're not understanding it actually deepens the relationship. A relationship implies love. So I guess now the question to ask yourself, if you have a hard time believing this, because you're not going to get any proof, you'll feel it in your heart. Consciousness is not just in the brain, it's everywhere. And I guess you have to ask yourself, what part of you resists this idea that love is part of material reality? There was a love making that helped create where we're at. That you're made with love. The reality that we're in, the way you can hear the water around me and see the sky. I see plenty of bunnies hopping, lots of hummingbirds, dragonflies. They're all consenting to be here to experience themselves within these unique constraints. Okay, once again, recapping. The laws of physics are nothing more than just consciousness consenting, setting a boundary, and stabilizing into form. When we understand physics, I guess what we're really understanding is the way consciousness set up rules for this reality to exist. This is the essence of co-creation with the divine. It's not entirely on us. It's not entirely on the divine. But we work together. We have consent and agreements and boundaries. We just don't remember. And that's why being more present and being more aware is important. Some people think that they can find all the stability by planning for the future. Funny, considering it hasn't happened yet, so it's up in the air. The only thing that's stable is this. That second that went by and that one, and the one after that. If you're worried about stability, maybe you should worry about the eternal now. And by being present and by being aware, you open yourself up to new ways of consenting, maybe understanding places that you consented that you didn't mean to. And I'll leave you with this, because I have a computer science background. The things that work successfully on planet Earth work because they are mimicking the structure of the divine's intelligent cosmic love and design. So when you install a software, there's a setup wizard, and you go consent, terms and agreements, click, install, update. The reason that this is an effective model for installing a software and an update is because that back and forth of consenting is exactly what our unconscious mind is doing with our realities. This is not just physics of material reality, it's also physics of life. So just think about what you're consenting to that you might not realize you are. And just be more aware and be present. Everything you could ever need to get to the place you want to be is happening right now.